Echoes of extinction. The Xylos system was a sepulchre illuminated by the jaundiced glare of a failing star. Eva's gaze fixed on the main view screen, the ghostly visage of what had been a planet dominating her perception. Now, it was a shattered remnant, etched with the scars of immense impacts, its terrain a somber swirl of ashen dust and charred rock. Anything, Nomad? Eva's question was a thread of tension in the sterile air. Sergeant Ito, dubbed Nomad for his restless nature and preternatural skill in navigating any environment, manipulated his console, a deep furrow creasing his forehead. Faint energy signatures, Captain. Lingering thermal pockets, sporadic at best. Atmosphere, marginally breathable. Heavy particulate matter, I advise full environmental protection. Affirmed, Eva responded. Assemble a ground team. Ito, Reyes, and Miller. Standard scout package. Let's unearth what transpired here. The shuttle settled within a crater that diminished anything Eva had previously witnessed. With a pneumatic sigh, the airlock opened, releasing them onto the surface. The silence possessed a tangible weight, disturbed only by the hum of their life support systems and the crunch of boots on the pulverized ground. The utter devastation was humbling, a grim monument to a vanished society. Jesus, Reyes grumbled, his voice tinny through the calms. This place is seriously creeping me out. Eva disregarded him, her eyes traversing the panorama on the horizon. Jagged outlines pierced the sky, the gaunt remains of structures that defied gravity and comprehension. Twisted metal obelisks stretched towards the heavens, their once pristine surfaces now eaten away by time and some nameless calamity. Let's proceed, Eva directed. Maintain formation, weapons ready. They moved forward warily, their boots disturbing puffs of fine dust that danced around them like ethereal specters. As they neared the ruins, the staggering scope of the Xylos civilization became undeniable. The edifices were colossal, fashioned with materials and techniques far exceeding human ingenuity. Elaborate carvings decorated the walls, portraying beings with attenuated limbs and vast, obsidian eyes. The architecture inspired disquiet, an unsettling fusion of fluid curves and severe, angular lines that bred a sense of unease. Take a look at this, Miller announced, indicating a series of crystalline wafers embedded within a collapsed wall. They throbbed with a dim, inner luminescence. Some form of data storage, I surmise. Nomad gingerly detached one of the wafers, his movements measured and precise. I'll attempt to interface with it back on the Odyssey. They ventured further into the ruins, their path leading them to a vast chamber, its ceiling long since vanished, exposing the interior to the pitiless glare of the dying sun. Centered in the chamber loomed a gigantic monolith, its surface adorned with intricate glyphs that seemed to writhe and shift before their very eyes. As they approached the monolith, a resonant hum permeated the air, vibrating through their suits and into their bones. The glyphs on the monolith commenced to glow, casting an uncanny emerald light throughout the chamber. Captain, Reyes said, his voice edged with anxiety. I've got a bad feeling about this. Abruptly, a voice resonated within their helmets, distinct and clear despite the millennia that had elapsed. That IT was a synthesized voice, devoid of warmth or inflection. They guard something worse. The statement repeated, echoing through the chamber, reverberating off the shattered walls, a chilling echo from a defunct civilization. The light diminished, the humming ceased, and the glyphs on the monolith receded to their dormant state. The silence was now heavier, saturated with apprehension. Eve stood motionless, her mind spiraling. The same utterance again. They guard something worse. Every species extinguished, every world ruined. The same ghastly warning. Nomad, she said, her voice scarcely audible. Did you copy that? Affirmative, Captain, Nomad replied, his tone grave. Recorded and encrypted, transmitting it back to the Odyssey now. Back on the ship, Eva observed as the data cascaded across the screen. The same bone-chilling message, translated into countless languages, The Xylos, like so many others, had been devoured by something horrific, and their last testament served as a caution. Eva drew a deep breath and activated the comm system. Odyssey to Earth Central. This is Captain Rostova. We have a Priority 1 transmission. The response came instantly. The image of Admiral Zhao materialized on the screen, his expression severe and impatient. Rostova, what have you got? We've been waiting for weeks. We've located the Xylos' homeworld, Admiral. Eva stated, her voice unwavering. It's gone annihilated, but we recovered their final communication. She transmitted the recording. Admiral Zhao listened silently, his face becoming increasingly ashen with each repetition of the ominous words. They guard something worse, he finally uttered, his voice a constricted whisper. Another one. God damn it. This is disconcerting. He paused, regaining his composure. Return to Earth immediately. Rostova. We need to analyze this now. Eva felt a surge of resentment. Disconcerting? This transcended mere unease. This represented an existential peril. Yet, she suppressed her anger. This was not the time for confrontation. Understood, Admiral, she responded. Odyssey out. As she severed the connection, Eva gazed out at the desolate ruins of the Xylos civilization. The dying sun cast elongated, foreboding shadows across the terrain, painting a portrait of doom and desolation. She knew, with a spine-chilling certainty, that whatever they guarded, humanity was ill-prepared to confront it, and she harbored a dreadful premonition that time was rapidly dwindling. The whispers spread. The second ruin was almost a carbon copy, another dead world, orbiting a dying red giant. Another monument, this one a shattered obelisk of obsidian-like material, pulsating faintly with residual energy. Another warning, translated by the Odyssey's humming universal translator, echoing the same chilling words. They guard something worse. Eva watched Ito navigate the rover across the jagged terrain, his face grimly set. He didn't need to say it. The repetition was suffocating, a cosmic joke with a terrifying punchline. The airlock hissed open, and Ito climbed out, removing his helmet. The thin atmosphere scratched at his lungs, a metallic tang clinging to the back of his throat. Same symbols, Captain, Ito reported, his voice crackling over the comms. Same energy signature. This wasn't a coincidence. Someone or something wanted us to find this. Eva felt a cold dread seep into her bones. Back on Earth, the analysts would be dissecting the data, building theories, drawing conclusions. But out here, light years from everything she knew, surrounded by the ghosts of extinct civilizations, she felt utterly alone. Then came the third water world, choked with algae and the skeletal remains of colossal, unknown creatures. The warning was different this time. That IT wasn't etched in stone, but projected onto the surface of a vast, artificial reef. A shimmering holographic display that flickered with ancient power. But the message was identical. The Odyssey, normally a hub of focused activity, began to feel like a pressure cooker. Sleep became a luxury. Crew members snapped at each other over trivial matters. The constant hum of the ship felt like a relentless accusation. Report. Eva barked at Lieutenant Morales, her voice sharper than intended, that he jumped, nearly dropping his datapad. Preliminary analysis. Captain suggests the energy signatures at all three sites are congruent, like they were all connected somehow. Connected, of course, they were. IT was all connected. The ruins, the warnings, the growing sense of impending doom. IT was a thread unraveling. Leading to what? Later that night, Eva found Ito in the observation deck. Staring out at the swirling nebula, he held a dented metal mug, the contents emitting a faint, earthy aroma. Tea. Always tea. Couldn't sleep, she said, her voice low. Ito didn't turn. Me neither. She leaned against the railing, mimicking his posture. What do you make of it, Ito? These ruins, the warnings. He took a slow sip of his tea. I think, he said, finally turning to face her, we've stumbled onto something we were never meant to see. Earth Command thinks they know what they're doing, Eva said, a bitter edge to her voice. They think they can control this. Ito chuckled, a dry, humorless sound. Earth Command thinks they can control everything. They sent us out here blind, Captain, and now we're paying the price. She clenched her fists. I don't trust them, Ito. Not anymore. Not after what happened on Kepler 186F. The memory of the lost team, sacrificed on the altar of bureaucratic incompetence, still haunted her. Ito nodded slowly. Trust is a luxury we can't afford, Captain, not out here. He paused. But I trust you. Eva met his gaze, searching for any sign of doubt or deceit. She found only weary understanding. We need to find out what this is about, Ito, before it's too late. Back on Earth, the whispers had become a roar. News of the Odyssey's discoveries had leaked. The sanitized reports from Earth Command were no match for the rampant speculation spreading across the net. Ancient alien civilizations. Ominous warnings. Something worse. The headline screamed. Conspiracy theories blossomed like toxic fungi. Religious fanatics predicted the apocalypse. Skeptics demanded answers. Panic on Earth. The flicker on the news screens rippled across Times Square. 1,000 faces illuminated by the same horrific revelation. Jagged, alien glyphs burned into the lunar dust, superimposed over the serene curve of Earth. The Chiron screamed. Guardian's hypothesis. Are we a prison? Jianli watched the chaos unfold from the sterile confines of the Strategic Command Center. The cacophony of alarms usually soothed her, a symphony of control. Today, it was a discordant reminder of her failing grip. On the central display, feeds showed riots erupting in London, Tokyo, Buenos Aires. Protesters, faces contorted with fear and anger, clashed with riot police. The air crackled with tear gas and the frantic blare of sirens. Containment efforts are failing, Commander. A crisp voice cut through the noise. The IT was Lieutenant Shun, her face pale on the comm screen. They're breaching the perimeters in multiple cities. Jianli pinched the bridge of her nose. Non-lethal force, only that we're not at war with our own people. Though she thought grimly, it certainly felt like it. The political fallout was equally disastrous. The United Nations Security Council was in emergency session, the debate devolving into a shouting match. The American representative, face flushed, demanded an immediate cessation of all deep space exploration. The Chinese ambassador countered, accusing the U.S. of fear-mongering and jeopardizing humanity's future. All the while, Jianli knew the real decisions were being made behind closed doors. Deals brokered and alliances forged in the shadows. Commander, another voice, this one laced with urgency to IT, was Dr. Anya Sharma, the lead xenoarchaeologist whose initial report had triggered this global meltdown. I need to speak with you privately. Jianli muted the comms and leaned forward. Anya, what is it? Anya's image wavered, her eyes wide and bloodshot. The glyphs, we've deciphered more of them. They're not just warnings, that they're instructions. Instructions on how to reinforce the seals. Seals? Li's stomach clenched. What seals are you talking about? The things that are keeping whatever they are guarding contained. They're weakening. And the instructions, they're complex, but they require a level of technological precision we haven't achieved, yet that we need more time, Commander. But I don't think we have it. Time. That was the one thing Jianli didn't have. She stared at the hollow map of Earth, overlaid with the network of planetary defense systems she had spent her career building. IT felt woefully inadequate. Patch me through to all global news networks, she ordered, her voice calm despite the turmoil raging inside her. Prepare a statement for immediate broadcast. The technicians scrambled. Jianli took a deep breath, picturing the faces of her family, her friends, all the people she had sworn to protect. She would not lie to them, but she would not incite further panic. Moments later, her image filled screens across the globe. She stood tall, her uniform impeccable, her expression resolute. My fellow citizens, she began, her voice amplified by 1,000 speakers. I understand the fear and uncertainty that many of you are feeling. Recent discoveries have raised difficult questions about our past and our future. I want to assure you that your governments are working tirelessly to assess the situation and to develop a comprehensive plan of action. Lies, she thought bitterly, to half-truths at best. We are increasing our planetary defense readiness, not as an act of aggression, but as a measure of precaution that we are reinforcing our monitoring systems and enhancing our research efforts that we will not be caught unprepared. She paused, meeting the collective gaze of billions. This is a time for unity, for resilience, and for faith in humanity's ability to overcome any challenge. We have faced existential threats before, and we have always emerged stronger, that we will do so again. She ended the broadcast, the silence in the command center deafening. She knew her words were a band-aid on a gaping wound. The panic would subside, but only for a while. The seeds of doubt and fear had been sown, and they would continue to grow, poisoning the minds of humanity. Jian Li turned to Chun. Increase security at all research facilities. Lock down all suspected cult activity. And, Chun, I need you to find me everything you can on Project Icarus. Every file, every record, everything. Chun looked at her, a flicker of apprehension in her eyes. But Commander, Project Icarus was decommissioned decades ago. It's just a myth, a conspiracy theory. Jian Li's gaze hardened. Myths often contain a kernel of truth. And right now, Chun, I'm willing to grasp at anything. The Earth Mark. The flickering holographic projection swam with numbers, glyphs, and schematics. Eris Thorne hadn't slept properly in 70 hours. His eyes burned, his fingers ached from manipulating the data streams. But he was close that he could feel it. The alien messages, disparate and fragmented as they were, held a common thread. AKEY.IT started subtly, an echoing pattern in the fractal geometry of a ruined city on Kepler. 186F, a recurring harmonic frequency embedded within a digital archive on Proxima Centauri b. Then, more overtly, a stylized carving on a monolith orbiting a rogue planet. A repeated sequence in an energy pulse emanating from a derelict space station near Epsilon Eridani. He'd initially dismissed them as coincidences, artifacts of translation errors, or even remnants of a shared mathematical base. But the sheer ubiquity, it was impossible to ignore that he isolated the common element. A circular form bisected by a curving line, with smaller, less distinct shapes clustered around the central point. IT was frustratingly simple, almost childlike, and utterly baffling that he cross-referenced it with every known xenolinguistic database, every astronomical chart, every religious symbol ever documented. Nothing. Then, staring blankly at the swirling nebula projected on his office wall, it hit him that he rotated the projection of the alien symbol, aligning the curving line with the ecliptic plane that he tweaked the contrast, enhancing the smaller shapes clustered around the central point. He almost didn't dare to breathe that he ran the image through a planetary mapping program, inputting the relevant data, landmass distribution, atmospheric composition, axial tilt. The program returned a match probability of 99.999%. Impossible, he whispered, his voice hoarse. He ran the simulation again. Same result. He called up a holographic globe of Earth, pristine and blue, and overlaid it with the alien symbol. The fit was uncanny. The curving line perfectly traced the continental shelf. The smaller shapes corresponded, with chilling accuracy, to major mountain ranges and tectonic plates. That IT was Earth, that a stylized, almost simplistic depiction of Earth, and it was everywhere. Eris uploaded his findings to the council server. Response was immediate, bordering on hysterical. Emergency sessions were convened. Scientists, linguists, and military strategists were dragged from their beds, their vacations, their research labs. The news, inevitably, leaked to the public. Panic flared. The quiet hum of progress, the optimistic belief in humanity's interstellar future, shattered into a cacophony of fear and recrimination. Why Earth? What did it mean? Was Earth the source of the danger they were being warned about, or its target? Eva Rostova, captain of the survey vessel Odyssey, stared at the news feed plastered across the mess hall viewport. Earth. The image of the alien symbol, now dubbed the Earth Mark, pulsed hypnotically. She felt a cold dread creep up her spine. The briefings, the training, the years of preparation, none of it had prepared her for this. "Well, that's just peachy," grumbled Jian, her comms officer, slamming his empty mug on the table. "So, we're the galactic pariahs now, are we?" Eva didn't respond. Her mind was racing. Earth. She hadn't seen it in 15 years. She'd left to escape the suffocating bureaucracy, the painful memories, the weight of responsibility she still carried for the losses on the Titan mission. Now, it seemed, she was being dragged back into the heart of it all. That a priority message pinged on her wrist console. She braced herself and tapped the screen. IT was from Fleet Command. "All personnel aboard Odyssey are ordered to cease current survey operations immediately," the message read. "Return to Earth orbit with maximum haste. Await further instructions." Eva closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and let it out slowly. Trusting authority had gotten her crew killed before. This time, she wouldn't make the same mistake. Whatever was happening on Earth, whatever the Earth mark signified, she had a sinking feeling they were walking into a trap. But orders were orders, and she had a crew to protect. "All right, people," she said, her voice tight but steady. "Pack your bags, that we're going home." The heretic's warning. The video flickered, the image grainy and unstable. But Marcus Vance's face was unmistakable. Even after years of self-imposed exile, that gaunt, almost skeletal face, framed by a shock of prematurely white hair, was instantly recognizable. Eva Rostova stared at the screen in her cabin aboard the Odyssey, the stale recycled air doing little to quell the sudden tightness in her chest. "The accepted narrative is a lie," Vance was saying, his voice raspy, like nails dragging across a chalkboard. He was speaking to a lone interviewer, a young woman who looked increasingly uncomfortable. Earth's isolation wasn't happenstance, that IT was deliberate, orchestrated. Orchestrated by whom, Dr. Vance? The interviewer asked, her voice laced with skepticism. Vance leaned forward, his eyes burning with an almost manic intensity. "The Guardians, that I call them the Guardians. They erected a cosmic quarantine, a barrier to keep humanity contained. To protect something else." The interviewer chuckled nervously. "And what is this something else, Doctor?" "Something ancient, something unspeakable, something slumbering beneath our feet." Eva muted the video, the echo of Vance's pronouncement still ringing in her ears. The Earth he described was a far cry from the cradle of humanity she'd always imagined. That a prison, a quarantine zone, absurd. Yet a seed of doubt had been planted. Earth was their next port of call, their first homecoming in decades. She'd been anticipating it with a mixture of excitement and trepidation. But now, she unmuted the video. The interviewer was wrapping up, her tone dismissive. "Dr. Vance, while we appreciate you sharing your theories, many consider them to be, well, a bit far-fetched." Vance merely smiled, a chillingly unsettling expression. "They will learn. They always do. But by then, it will be too late." Eva switched off the screen, the oppressive silence of her cabin amplifying her unease. Vance had always been a brilliant, if eccentric, mind, but brilliance often bordered on madness. His theories had been laughed out of every academic circle years ago, deemed baseless and paranoid. The next day, the news feeds were ablaze with headlines. Not about Vance, but about something far more tangible. Geological anomalies, that a series of unusual seismic events had been detected beneath the Antarctic ice sheet. The reports were vague, couched in technical jargon, but the underlying message was clear. Something was happening down there. Something unprecedented. Dr. Aristhorn, the Odyssey's chief geologist, summoned Eva to the bridge. His usually jovial face was etched with concern. "Captain, I've been analyzing the seismic data. It's perplexing. The readings are unlike anything I've ever seen. It's as if the Earth itself is resonating." Eva felt a cold dread creeping through her veins. "Resonating how, Eris?" Like a struck bell, Captain, a deep, low-frequency vibration emanating from beneath the ice, and it's growing stronger. Back in her cabin, Eva replayed Vance's interview. His words, once dismissed as the ravings of a madman, now echoed with a disturbing resonance of their own. Asterisk, something slumbering beneath our feet. Asterisk. She pulled up the official Earth Central database, searching for any mention of the Guardians. The search returned 0 results. The silence was deafening. That IT was as though the very idea was scrubbed from history. Eva stared out the viewport at the swirling nebula outside the ship. For years, she had believed in the official narrative. Humanity's manifest destiny to explore the stars, to discover new worlds and expand its reach. Now, she was beginning to wonder if they had been lied to, if the true purpose of their journey wasn't exploration, but escape, and if, by breaking the quarantine, they had unleashed something far more dangerous than they could possibly imagine. Beneath the ice, the sky above Earth was a bruised purple, not the vibrant blue Eva remembered from simulations. The Odyssey pierced the atmosphere. Her calm crackled with static, then a curt, automated voice. Unidentified vessel, you are approaching restricted airspace. Identify yourselves immediately and state your purpose. Eva swallowed, the metallic tang of recycled air coating her tongue. This is the Odyssey, returning from long-range exploration. Captain Eva Rostova speaking. We are carrying vital data regarding xenoarchaeological sites and potential threats. Silence. Then, a different voice, laced with suspicion. Odyssey, you are flagged for extended absence. Your arrival is unexpected. Prepare for inspection. Do not deviate from your designated trajectory. Flagged. Thorn muttered from his console, his brow furrowed. Since when? The welcome home wasn't exactly warm. 3 sleek, black fighters, their weapons systems glinting menacingly, escorted the Odyssey to a designated orbital platform. Eva watched them, a knot of unease tightening in her stomach. Earth was supposed to be a safe haven, the center of everything. Now it felt hostile. Ito, ever the pragmatist, simply strapped himself into his crash couch. But they'll want to see our papers. Hope they like reports in triplicate. After a tense debriefing filled with pointed questions and thinly veiled accusations, Eva, Thorn, and Ito found themselves released, but far from free. They were confined to the sprawling, sterile complex of the Planetary Defense Command. That's when Vance contacted them. Meet me. Old Anchorage, Section 7. His message read, cryptic and untraceable. Old Anchorage was a ghost town, a skeletal reminder of a bygone era swallowed by the sprawling new city. Section 7 was a dilapidated warehouse, smelling of rust and forgotten dreams. Vance waited inside, a wiry figure cloaked in shadow. The years of self-imposed exile had etched deep lines into his face, but his eyes still burned with manic intensity. You saw things out there, didn't you? Vance rasped, bypassing pleasantries. Things they don't want you to know about. Things connected to what's happening here. Eva exchanged glances with Thorn and Ito. We've seen anomalies, yes, consistent messages. Warnings. Warnings about what? Thorn asked, his geologist's curiosity piqued. About them, Vance said, gesturing vaguely upwards. The Guardians, they're not protecting us, they're containing something. And that containment is failing. He pulled up a holographic projection, displaying seismic activity concentrated in Antarctica. This started months ago. Artificial tremors, they're digging. Digging for what? Eva asked, a chill creeping down her spine. That's what we're going to find out. Vance replied, a glint in his eye. I have a submersible, modified for extreme depths and conditions, that we leave tonight. The journey to Antarctica was swift and silent. The modified submersible, christened the Mole, was a marvel of engineering, drilling its way through the seemingly endless layers of ice with ease. Thorn monitored the seismic readings, his anxiety growing with each passing meter. The energy readings are off the charts, he announced, his voice strained. We're approaching the source. Finally, they broke through into a vast cavern, illuminated by the Mole's powerful searchlights. What they saw stole their breath. IT wasn't a natural formation. IT was a structure, impossibly ancient, crafted from material that seemed to absorb light. Geometric patterns, intricate and alien, adorned its surface. The IT was technology beyond anything they had ever encountered, buried deep beneath the Antarctic ice for millennia. Ito, ever the observer, spoke first. Well, that's not supposed to be there. He paused. I officially hate this planet. Eva stared, speechless. The warnings, the anomalies, the guardians, it was all starting to coalesce into a terrifying truth. Earth wasn't a cradled, IT was a tomb. And they had just cracked it open. The unsealing. The tremors started subtly, a vibration through the deck plates that most dismissed as residual engine hum. Eva Rostova, however, felt it in her bones. Eris, she barked into the comm, her grip tightening on the Odyssey's command console. Seismic readings? Off the charts, Captain. Eris Thorne's voice crackled back, laced with a growing unease. Multiple epicenters, globally distributed. Nothing like anything we've ever seen. The readings are chaotic. Eva swallowed, a knot forming in her stomach. This wasn't a natural phenomenon. Not with the whispers she'd been hearing lately, the hushed theories about Earth being more than just humanity's birthplace. Then the lights flickered, plunging the bridge into momentary darkness. Emergency lights flared on, painting the faces of her crew in a sickly red glow. The ship lurched violently, throwing Nomad Ito, who was leaning against a bulkhead. Against the navigation console, he pushed himself upright, a ghost of a smile playing on his lips. Well, that's one way to start the morning, he drawled, adjusting his comm piece. Report. Eva snapped, her voice tight. Structural integrity holding, Captain, the helmsman reported, his voice strained. But we're losing altitude. Gravity wells fluctuating wildly. On the main view screen, the image of Earth swam, the blue and green swirls of the planet distorted by what looked like heat haze. But it wasn't heat. It was energy, raw and untamed, radiating from deep within the planet. What in God's name is happening? Eva breathed, more to herself than anyone else. Then the screen filled with a new image, a live feed from a geological survey drone in the Pacific. A colossal fissure was opening in the ocean floor, wider than any canyon, deeper than any trench. And something was emerging, something vast, scaled, and impossibly ancient. The feed cut out. Panic erupted on the bridge. Alarms blared, a cacophony of warnings that only amplified the dread. Eva fought to maintain control, her training kicking in. All stations brace for impact, prepare for anything. Reports flooded in from across the globe. Similar fissures, similar entities. Things ripped from nightmares, their forms defying any known biology, their roars shaking the very foundations of the world. Global defense networks scrambled, missiles launched, lasers fired, but it was like throwing pebbles at a mountain. The monstrous entities shrugged off the attacks, as if they were mere irritants. Then, a static-filled transmission broke through the chaos. A voice, raspy and weak, but undeniably Marcus Vance. I warned you, he croaked. I told you what happened. Vance! Eva roared into the comm. What the hell is going on? What are these things? The Guardians failed, Vance wheezed. Humanity's reach weakened the seals. They were never meant to leave. Earth was a prison, and now the prisoners are free. Seals. What seals? How do we stop them? Eva demanded, desperation creeping in her voice. Reseal the prison, Vance said, his voice fading in and out. The frequency, the key, lies in the original activation pulse. Find it, replicate it, use it, that's the only way. He coughed, a rattling, painful sound, before it's too late. The transmission ended. Silence descended on the bridge, heavy and suffocating. Nomad Ito was the first to break it. He pushed himself away from the console, his face grim. Well, Captain, he said, his voice flat. Looks like we've got ourselves a planet to save and a frequency to find out. I suggest we get started. He glanced out at the swirling chaos on the view screen, a flicker of something unreadable in his eyes. Welcome home. The price of containment. Hold tight. Eva's voice, strained and brittle, cracked over the comms. The Odyssey groaned under the assault. Another jolt ripping through the shields. Strapped into his station, Eris swallowed hard, battling nausea. "Captain, global seismic activity is off the charts. The frequency is affecting them, but it's provoking them." Eva's grip tightened on the controls, her knuckles bone-white. Once a beacon of security, Earth's defense grid now targeted them with implacable force. Commander Lee, driven by her chilling logic, deemed the Odyssey the greater danger, even as monsters clawed their way to the surface. Almost there, Eva ground out. The holographic display shimmered, pinpointing their destination. The Mariana Trench, presumed heart of the subterranean prison. Eris confirmed transmission array lock. "Locked, Captain." But the shields are failing fast. We're sustaining critical damage. A burst of static cleaved the comms, then a voice, faint but familiar. "Eva, it's Vance." Eva's pulse quickened. "Vance, report." More static, then frequency unstable. "Needs focus a sacrifice." "Sacrifice? Explain, Vance." Silence, broken only by white noise that a glacial dread washed over Eva. She grasped his meaning. The array, overloaded and volatile, demanded a manual intervention to a human conductor, a final offering. "Eris, take the con," Eva directed, her voice a bare thread. Ignoring his questioning gaze, she released her restraints. "I need to recalibrate the transmission matrix. Stand by to initiate the burst now." She moved toward the transmission chamber, her boots echoing in the desolate corridor. Another blast shuddered through the ship, slamming her against the bulkhead. Sirens wailed, bathing the vessel in an ominous crimson glow. The chamber reeked of ozone and scorched metal. The array throbbed with raw power, a hair trigger away from meltdown. Drawing a steadying breath, she engaged the manual override. The controls pulsed with malevolent light. This was it. On the bridge, Eris watched the damage. Indicators climb. "Captain, shields at 12%. We're losing integrity." Then, the array stabilized. A lance of focused energy erupted from the Odyssey, spearing the atmosphere and plunging into the abyssal depths. The palpable wave cascaded over the ship, followed by an unnerving calm. Seismic readings plummeted. The creatures, whatever their nature, retreated. The prison held. Eris stared, dumbfounded. Then, the alarms ceased. The red lights dimmed. The Odyssey lay adrift, inert. "Captain, respond," he yelled into the comms, receiving only static in return. He knew, with chilling certainty, her fate. Moments later, the Odyssey began to disintegrate. The energy surge had crippled the engines and fractured the hull. Eris barely managed to transmit a distress call before the ship dissolved in a blinding flare. On Earth, the news rippled outwards. The monsters were quelled. The Odyssey was gone. Humanity stood at a crossroads, grappling with the implications. Commander Lee addressed the world, her resolve a shield. The threat was contained, she declared, at considerable cost. The Odyssey fulfilled its purpose. Their courage will be honored. Then came the final, chilling decree. All deep space exploration is suspended indefinitely. Earth remains under quarantine. We will not risk unleashing that terror again. Years drifted by. The space exploration ban remained in place. Earth retreated, fixating on defense and surveillance. The stars, once a siren song, became a foreboding realm. In a solitary observatory overlooking the churning Pacific, Eris scanned the celestial tapestry.
Something illogical, something human. Eva studied Borak for a moment, her gaze intense. She tapped a finger against her teeth, a habit that always made Jax nervous. Then, a slow smile spread across her face. "I'm going all in," she announced, pushing her remaining credits into the pot. A collective gasp filled the small cabin. Borak's scales rippled with surprise. Jax felt a surge of panic that he knew Eva was bluffing, that he could see it in the almost imperceptible twitch of her lips.